Hello. Have you ever wondered about Muslim Americans and what their culture really entails? Muslim Americans is a term that's used quite frequently in our society. We hear about it in the news. It's even been in the center of discussion amongst individuals. Muslim Americans have become a very key component to the diversity in our society in America. Last year, I got the opportunity to do a little research on the topic of Muslim Americans and their culture. I picked this topic so that way I could get a little more of an insight and education in regards to this subject. Today, I'm going to share this research with you in hopes that you too will gain a little insight and education as well. First, we're going to start with the history of Muslim Americans. Then we're going to briefly touch on the subject of the religion of Muslim Americans. And then we will conclude the presentation with a little bit about the actual culture of Muslim Americans. The first group of Muslim Americans arrived over 400 years ago with the arrival of slaves from Africa. These African Americans played a very big role in the abolishment of slavery and were also soldiers in the Civil War. The next group of Muslims came in the 19th century, consisting mostly of individuals of Arabic descent. These individuals came from such countries as Lebanon and Syria. They were practicing Arabic Christians before converting to the Islamic religion. The last Muslim American movement occurred after World War I and World War II, and during and after the Great Migration of African Americans from southern cities to northern cities. African Americans make up 1/3 of today's Muslim American population. One of the biggest Muslim American communities is right here in Michigan, located in Dearborn. Some notable celebrities that are practicing Muslim Americans include pop star Janet Jackson, athlete Shaquille O'Neal, and rapper Snoop Dogg. Now let's briefly touch on Muslim American religion. Muslim Americans study what's called Islamic religion. It can be compared to that of white evangelicals and black Protestants. Muslim Americans pray to a God named Allah. A description of Allah could be something in the terms of one true God or Almighty God. Allah is actually the Arabic word for God. There are two distinctive religious groups that are within the Islamic religion. One is Sunni and the other one is Shiite. These two religions are closely related to one another but share one distinctive difference. The difference is the view over leadership of the Islamic people after the death of Prophet Muhammad. And Prophet Muhammad was the founder of Islam. They do their teachings through a book called the Quran, which is the Islamic Holy Bible. This book can be closely compared to that of the Christianity book called the Holy Bible. American Muslim Americans are required to pray 5 times a day. There is not a distinctive location they're required to pray in, but the male gender of the family is encouraged to pray in a house of worship, which is called a mosque. They pray in these mosques to help strengthen community bonds. The first mosque was built in 1929 in Ross, North Dakota. The oldest standing mosque was built in 1934 in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Now let's briefly cover a little bit about American Muslim culture. There are many key components to the American Muslim culture. We are just going to cover a few of them briefly here. The first one is the hijab. I'm sure most are familiar with the hijab. It is a head covering that women, the female gender, cover over their head to conceal their modesty and help support their Islamic faith. Now, the Muslim American females are not required to wear the hijab, but women of Arabic descent or in Arabic countries are required to wear the hijab. Now we know everything is good with bacon. Myself, I wish bacon had its own food group. But unfortunately for the Islamic faith, Muslim Americans are forbidden to eat pork. Pork is considered a very unsanitary and unpure meat. And Muslim Americans are forbidden through the readings of the Quran to eat pork. Now you see a picture of my dog Molly. We all know that pets are a very, very key component to any family. My dog, I consider, is a member of my family. But unfortunately, for those that practice this Islamic faith, they prefer not to own dogs. The reason why is because dog saliva is considered unclean and impure. If they come in contact with a canine saliva, they must cleanse their hands in order to become pure again. In order to do the prayer rituals 5 times a day, they must make sure they are completely pure and cleansed in order to be able to do this. So they would have to wash their hands before every commencement of prayer in order to consider themselves clean to their God Allah. So it was more of an inconvenience than anything for American Muslim to own a dog. The very last piece of culture I would like to touch on is the celebration of Ramadan. Ramadan is a celebration of purity. It starts the sighting of the first moon on the 9th month of the Islamic lunar calendar. This celebration lasts a duration of 1 month and includes such things as refraining from eating and drinking. This ritual is considered a way of purifying yourself and reflecting on the previous year to cleanse yourself to prepare for the next year. And then you are responsible for doing more prayer during the day. Now that I've touched base on a few of the key points of the Muslim American in their culture, I hope I was able to give you a little insight and education in regards to this topic. Thank you so much for listening.